So you're a freshman or sophomore looking for your first internship without any real-world experience, and you're wondering what you should do. Don't worry, I was literally in your same place 3 years ago, and today I'm going to go over my resume that got me my first internship at Tennant Company as a mechanical engineering intern. And before I go any further, I want to give a huge shout out to Tamers Chanel. His channel is linked in the description, or his tag name is right there. So I have to give him the credit that he deserves. Go check his channel out, he's amazing. Now, let's get into it. Now that we're looking at my resume, you can see that I chose a more artistic approach towards my resume as an engineer. As you can see, I have my header right here. In my header, I always include, obviously, my name in the big bold letters, and I include my major, where I'm studying, and a personal statement, along with my socials and LinkedIn and contact information. I wish I would have hyperlinked this. That's something that I'll talk about later, but definitely hyperlink. Then I have 5 basic headers moving on, being projects, skills, education, work experience, if you have any, and extracurriculars and leadership. We'll start off with the 2 most important things, which are most likely going to be projects and skills in your situation as a first internship applier with likely little or no real-world work experience. For me, I included 3 projects that I did in school, and specifically projects that I did reports on, being a trolley car, butyl rubber test, and web data analyzing. If you don't have reports or tests or real-world applicable projects that you've done in school, I highly recommend that you go create your own projects. You can create your own project by following CAD tutorials on YouTube or following software coding tutorials on YouTube to create your own personal projects that you can utilize and showcase on your resume. This is by far the most important thing, and if you don't have this experience or project to talk about, first, before you even create your resume, go do that. And make sure you take photos. If you're a freshman, take photos of your projects, because later on in this video when I go over my portfolio, you'll see why that is super important. Now going back into the resume, you see that I have my projects and skills. I have highlighted or bolded any of the keywords that are important for the possible internships that I will be applying for. As you can see, I was applying for a lot of design work, mechanical engineering internships, so I bolded these keywords so that the reviewer could hopefully scan the document quickly and see these keywords that are directly applicable to the internships I was applying for. Next, I have my education, work experience, and extracurriculars. To be completely honest, I'm not sure that the work experience was that important to include, as I am applying towards mechanical engineering internships. My work experience was a personal shopper and honestly has no applicability. So moving forward, I might not include it, but it's here. And then I include the clubs and my education, which you should include, and is very important, but you do not need to include your GPA, FYI. Now let's move on to the portfolio section, which is arguably the most important section. For me personally, this single section has been what got me almost all of my interviews, and oftentimes in my mechanical engineering interviews, or any interviews for a matter of fact, this was often the only thing that was talked about. The interviewers never even mentioned my resume, they only talked about the portfolio. So this is extremely important, is arguably more important than the actual resume, and when applying to internships, make sure you always submit this. Currently I have it in the same document because it's the same formatting, and oftentimes if an internship didn't have a separate link to submit a portfolio or cover file, CV, I would just submit my resume with portfolio attached. Even though it's more than 1 page, I don't care. It was by far the most important thing. Now let's look at it. As you can see, I have my 2 tests that I mentioned directly above, my trolley car test and my butyl rubber test, which were both reports that I did in class, in school, and I had pictures of them, which is what allows me to create this portfolio. As you can see, I have the same header format as I had before, and then I list each test with a what, how, results, along with the pictures. As engineers, we're deeply invested in the way things work and being able to visualize how they work. Including pictures when applying towards specifically engineering internships is super valuable because as an engineer, that's by far the most interesting aspect of a resume. It allows me to physically see what the applicant has done. And going with the how result method of explanation allows the reader to quickly and effectively understand the project, what you were doing in the project, and the end results of the project to analyze if it's a good fit or if it's applicable to the job that you're applying for. As you can see, I briefly described what I was doing with the trolley's car in the what section. I explained how I did it, which is my area that allows me to talk about my skills in SolidWorks and in this case Arduino and C++, and the results, which is by far the least important but still include. As you can see, this wraps up my basic first resume that I used to apply for my first internships. And let's go over what I would use nowadays if I were to apply for my first round of internships once again. So here we go. I'm going to go into the resume that I would use for applications now. Obviously, this isn't the actual resume that I'm doing, and I will actually link the actual resume that I currently use today in the description below. But this is using the same information as the resume before, but done in a different format. As you can see, I am no longer going with the 2-header system. I only have 1 row of headers. This allows the reader to more effectively look at the information and assess it. I was told by multiple managers that I'm friends with that the old style of resume was cluttered looking because it wasn't the standard typical way that reviewers look at resumes. Even though it's unique and may catch the eye, it was hard for a reviewer to read because they are used to a specific format, and it's best to stick to that format. Furthermore, with English, we always read right to left, right? So the most important stuff should be right here. This is because of the way that we read, and oftentimes reviewers will specifically look at this area, as you can see in this graphic right here that shows the eye patterns of resume reviewers when they're looking at applicants. As you can see, the left column is by far the most important and looked at area. So it's best to follow the typical format instead of a 2-sectioned format, which only 1 section will get looked at. Also, before I forget, this version does better against an ATS, which is essentially an automatic tracking style system that automatically reads and evaluates your resume, which many companies use for ranking and assessing resumes prior to reviewing them by an actual human so that they can get a better idea of which applicants will be the best applicants. How your resume does against an ATS is important, and this style of resume will do significantly better against an ATS as it is formatted in a more readable format. The next big change that I made to my resume is that instead of having a skills section, I have a summary of qualifications section. I decided to go with a summary of qualifications section since listing out a bunch of skills is already possible in most applications, especially ones done by Workday. Going with a summary of qualifications allows you to actually explain how you use these qualifications, these skills, these things that you have learned. This is much better than just listing out the skills, as anyone can list out skills, but not everyone can tell how they use them and how they are applicable. Next, I have my project section, which is exactly the same as before. And then I have my education and extracurricular section. As you can see, I am not including my work experience in this style of resume because my work experience was not applicable to the internships that I was applying for. When applying to a mechanical engineering or maybe a finance or econ internship, they may not really care about your experience as a bagger at a grocery store. So why include it when it takes up valuable space that could be filled with projects or experience that you have done throughout school that is directly applicable to the internship? And moving on to the portfolio, I've kept the exact same. No need to change it. It is still the same style portfolio that I use today. So here's the final result. As you can see, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and remember, the links to all of my resumes that you can download as templates using Canva are in the description below. And I can't stress enough that I have to give all the credit to Tamer, the engineer, because so much of this is based off of the portfolio and resume that he has made. So I can't thank him enough. If you enjoyed this video or enjoyed any of my previous videos, give this video a like and comment in the comment section below if you would like to see any specific videos in the future, maybe dealing with how I got my first internship, or maybe about my specific experiences at my internship or my experiences as an engineer at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Once again, thank you guys for watching. See you next time.